Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode on the Playmaker podcast. I'm pumped for today because I've got someone so cool, y'all aren't even going to believe it. I have got Amber Smith, UK basketball coach, former UK point guard star athlete. Like, I grew up going to the games and watching her. And so then when I was in college and got to be a manager for the team, I was like, no way, this is too cool. So, Amber, I'm pumped for you to be here today. How are ya?
Maggie, I'm doing great. Your energy is already contagious, just like what I remembered. So I'm doing great.
Yay. So, at the time of this recording, season hasn't started yet. So, like, how is that going? And just kind of jump into like tell us a little bit about you and like kind of where you're at and with what you're doing right now.
Okay. So like you said, I'm the assistant coach here. I started back on support staff as a director of player development. So it's been pretty awesome being back at my alma mater. As you know, it's a special place. Kentucky is in general. And so, right now we started back school late August, gave our players about 2 weeks to try to, get used to everything, then jump right into workouts. So we got 3 weeks of workouts, just working on individual skill, small combo work. And then we start official practice on the 27th. But, it's a lot of excitement around the program. We got a lot of new players in that love Kentucky. And so I love when people love Kentucky because they're going to bring the same energy that I bring in daily.
Uh-huh. Absolutely. I love that. So, where are you from? Tell us a little bit about that and like how you got started with basketball
Okay.
to make it like one as a player, but then to make it a full career.
Right, right. So I'm originally from Winter Haven, Florida. That is Central Florida area. And so, born and raised there and, there for 17 years of my life. And I'm just like, I want something different. And so,
Yeah.
I started playing basketball at the age of 4. That's when I fell in love with it. And so, I found out that I could earn a scholarship for basketball. And so my passion kind of took off there. Kentucky was one of the schools that was interested in me and offered me a full scholarship. I had my choice of picks, and Kentucky stood out. And so came up here to visit, and it's a basketball school, and I ended up here as a student athlete. Had an amazing career. I was here for 5 years with a red shirt year, but basketball, just my first love. I can remember at 4 years old, I had a basketball in my hand, and my mom
Hmm.
made a lot of sacrifices for me in order for me to, get to where I was as a player and also be where I am now as a coach.
Yeah, I love that. I tell people down here because I feel like we switch places. Like you're from Florida, I'm from Kentucky. Now you're in Kentucky and I'm in Florida.
Yes.
And when I talk about my home, I'm like I love Lexington. I love Versailles. It's the prettiest place on the planet. I'm convinced. I love it. And people are like, I've never met someone that loves where they're from so much. And I'm like, I'm telling y'all, if you would come, you wouldn't want to leave either. It's the best. So it like fills my love bucket that you have just experienced that home and you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Exactly. Exactly.
I love it. So you mentioned there was a red shirt year. I remember when you were playing, there was an ACL tear, and then I think there was a second one, wasn't
It
there?
was.
So what was that whole experience like? And to like just like bring me into that picture. Like what happened?
Yep. So before I got to college, I had no major injuries, maybe just one sprained ankle, might have dislocated my shoulder, but nothing too crazy that would keep me out for long periods of time. And so the end of my freshman year, was having a great freshman year. I just got into the starting lineup. And so, as a freshman, that's a big deal. So career was getting off to a good start. And the end of my freshman year, around February, I tore my ACL. And I can remember it, as talking about it right now, I can remember it like it was yesterday as far as what happened. It was at Tennessee, end of the first half. I was going up for a layup and jump stop and plant it, and my knee just gave out. And so in that moment, I knew something serious had happened. A few days later, it was confirmed that I tore my ACL. I did not know exactly what that meant for me, but then as a few days passed, I found out that I would be out for a long period of time. It's about 6 to 8 months rehab, surgery, and so during that time, I mean, it was a tough time because, like I said, I had never gone through anything where I couldn't play basketball for an extended amount of time. And
Hmm.
so I went through, a dark time because, as an athlete, your sport means a lot to you. But,
Absolutely.
and then in that moment, it's kind of like you got to you find out a lot about yourself, outside of your sport. And so went through some lows, but then I was surrounded by just a great support staff that helped me bring me up, uplifting. My teammates would come in, rehab every day and try to uplift me. And so after that, I rehab, came back for that next season, played 2 full seasons. My junior year, we ended up going to the Elite Eight. And so after my junior year, going into my senior year, end of the summer, tore my ACL again, tore the other knee. And so I actually handled that second one better than the first one, because in a sense, I knew what to expect. And, my coach, Matthew Mitchell, I mean, he challenged me. He wouldn't let me be down. He was like, Amber, we need you. We still need you. We need you to be a leader. And so I found out just how important, my role still was. It wasn't just like, oh, go into the training room and you're not a part of the team anymore. It was like, nope, you're going to be in practice and then do rehab. And so really handled the second one better than the first one. And the second one was honestly, I always say, a blessing in disguise. Even though it was a tough time, I was able to come back for another year, and we ended up winning the SEC regular season championship. We went to another Elite Eight. I met some of my closest friends outside of basketball. I formed amazing relationships with people that came in that last year. So complete blessing in disguise, and I wouldn't change anything different.
And that was so, like, I remember that. That was so fun. And your all's team, like, even like as I was a manager, there was like a reunion and a bunch of your former teammates came back. And I was like, oh my goodness, like, I grew up watching y'all and like literally practicing, like pretending to be y'all. Like, this is so crazy cool. I love that.
Yes.
So, do you think that, like, have you been able to help other players that have experienced injuries like this because you've gone through it twice yourself?
Absolutely, Maggie. I think like everything we go through is to help. Everything bad or good that we go through is to help someone else. God does not place us into situations, without a reason. And we usually don't realize it in the moment while we're going through it. But I think someone comes into your life and it opens your eyes of, okay, this is why I went through it. And so I've been able to help multiple former players, even recruits that don't even come to Kentucky. I am so open to helping somebody because it's just so much more you can get out of just an injury. You can learn so much about yourself, your mental toughness. Obviously physically you're not able to do a lot of things, and so you have to figure out, how can I do other things? And so Ogechi is a player, one of my former players. I would go in there and rehab with her. Like, I would still go in there and do things that I did, and just being there as a support system for her, I think it meant a lot to her, but it also meant a lot to me, helped me build a better relationship with her. So absolutely, it has helped me help other people go through this injury.
I love that. I've heard it say, like, you are best equipped to help the person that you used to be. And so that, like, I've never torn my ACL, so I can't possibly help someone in that. But when I was in high school, I was in a car wreck that ended my basketball career, which is why I ended up going to, like, I would have gone to a smaller school to play ball somewhere. But that's, again, a blessing in disguise. We wouldn't be having this conversation had that not happened, right? Like, super cool, like, very much God's timing. I know I wouldn't change it either.
Yes.
But Amber, after my car wreck, when my basketball career ended, because I knew one day the lights would turn off and I'd walk off the court for the last time. But I didn't, like, the last time I walked off the court, I had no idea it would be my last. And I'm telling you, I did not realize how much my identity was in basketball. And, as a believer and a follower of Jesus, like, we're told, like, your identity needs to be in Christ. It needs to be in Jesus. And I was like, yeah, mine is. I'm good. Until basketball was taken from me. And I was like, holy cow, who am I? Did you experience, like, an identity struggle after your ACL tears?
I wouldn't say an identity struggle, but it was a tough time of, like, coming to the realization that because I knew I would come back to play basketball, because how everything has changed and, surgery and what they're able to do. But it was the question of, will I be able to come back the player that I was? And so I think that is more mental than physical at the end of the day. And so when I was able to get my mental, right, where it was positive, and that, you know what, I'm a worker. So if I put in the work, I will be able to get there. And so, but it did take some time to get to that place. And so definitely went through some type of struggle of, like, maybe I won't be the player, just some struggle, some doubt in my head. And so I was able to overcome that and, put in the work. And like I said, just who you're surrounded with, like, they make such a big impact on just how you, change things.
Yeah. You know, that's because you're a playmaker, which is like what my podcast is called, and you surround yourself with playmakers, which helps you be a better one. I love it.
Thank
I'm
you,
all
Maggie.
for it.
Thank you.
Okay, coach. So walk me through your coaching career. Weren't you were a GA at Tennessee, right?
Right.
Were you under Pat Summitt?
I was not. I was not. She was
Okay.
around. She was still around. I was under Holly Warlick, but Pat
Okay.
would come into the office 2, 3 times a day. So just her, her presence, even just being there, it was amazing. And then obviously as a player, I
Hmm.
was able to be on teams that played against her teams. So to just start back from the beginning of why I got into coaching, at my high school, her name was LaDon Gibson. She was my high school coach. And she is the reason, why I wanted to coach. Watching her day in and day out and how she carried herself, how she cared about us as people was probably the biggest thing that I got out of it. And me just saying, I want to impact people like she is impacting people. And obviously on the court, she pushed us to our absolute limits. It was a discipline system. And so I was brought up, I was blessed to be brought up in such an environment that cared about you as a person, as a academic person, and then as a basketball player. And so
Yeah.
I was super, super grateful to be around her. And so she is the reason why I wanted to coach. And so I knew I wanted to coach after high school, but then when I got to college, I was just like, you know what, I want to coach college. And then it became, you know what, I want to coach at Kentucky one day. And so after my playing career, I went to play professionally. And so after I finished, I went home and trained for a year, but I was not able to get anywhere. I had an agent, but it just didn't work out for me. It wasn't in my cards. And so I felt better with still trying to pursue that and it not working out than
Hmm.
not pursuing it at all. And so had a year at home, just working out. And so once I definitely struggled with the identity crisis then because it's just like, okay, I thought I was going to play basketball more and now I'm not, and so that was
Mm-hmm.
tough, but it goes back to how I carried myself as a player and, the people that I surrounded myself with Matthew Mitchell, with, Kyra Elsie, Nia Butts. Those are people that I still had in my corner, Mickey DeMoss. And so Coach Elsie knew I wanted to get into coaching. And, a GA spot was the, best option for me to get in. And so she made it happen. She made room for me on the staff at Tennessee and she gave me a call. I had just started working this job, a real job, and she called me during my break and she said, "We got a spot for you." I said, "Let me put
I
in my
love it.
2 weeks notice." So so I got to Tennessee as a GA and the plan was to be there for 2 years, but I was only there for 1 year because I got another call while playing a intramural softball game from Coach Elsie saying, Tyler Summit would like to talk to you. And so had that conversation, talked to Mickey DeMoss as well, and made a decision to accept my first assistant coaching job at Louisiana Tech. I was there for 2 years, and then after that, came back to Kentucky as a support staff, and then was promoted to assistant coach. So that's kind of my path, and I'm going into season 10 now, and that's kind of unbelievable to say.
You are. That is so cool. So, were Tyler and Mickey DeMoss coaching like together at Louisiana Tech?
They were. So, to go back, Mickey DeMoss recruited me in high school, and that is who I originally committed to play for. But then
Oh, I didn't know that.
yes. And then she decided to step down, and then Matthew Mitchell stepped in and, still stayed committed to Kentucky after that, but had a great, relationship with Mickey DeMoss. And so that's kind of how that happened. So when I
I
came
love
back to
her.
Louisiana Tech, she was the associate head coach and kind of felt like it was a full circle moment of, me committing to play for her, not being able to play for her, but then now being able to coach alongside her. So it's pretty cool to coach alongside Mickey DeMoss and Tyler Summit.
That is so cool. When I think I was 4 years old, and Mickey Mouse was head coach at UK, and it was summertime. There was a summer camp going on for young girls. Well, I was too young to be there, but my parents had registered me and didn't realize that I didn't. So, but when they got there and quickly, they were like, "Oh no, she's too young to be here." But like childcare, like that's what like their game plan was for the week. And so their mom was like, "Well, crap." And Mickey DeMoss picked me up and put me on her hip. She was like, "I'll keep her all week. You'll be good." And I was like her and I remember, I don't have a ton of memories from that, but I remember that moment and like being out on the court with like the bigger girls. And I mean, I was just like her biggest fan after. I love her. I
That's
think she's
awesome.
awesome.
That's awesome. She's
She's super cool.
such an amazing person.
Yeah. So What is it like being in the presence of basketball royalty is what I'm gonna call it, okay? Right? Like Pat Summitt was like the thing. Like that is the coach that I always wanted to play for. And then, Mickey DeMoss coached with her. Obviously, Tyler's her son. Coach Mitchell learned under her. Coach Butts and Coach Elsie both played for her. Like, holy cow, that like and you've been surrounded and have learned from and have worked with all of these people. That is not normal. That is so stinking special. Like, what is that like for you?
It's surreal. And to hear you, say it, like I know that, but to hear you say it, it is just like, wow. It kind of floors me that, I am a part of, her tree in a sense, because her coaching tree, Pat Summit, it has
Yes.
so many branches on it. And so to be a part of that in some sense, of the people that, she has molded, that she has, helped become the coaches that they are today, that are now paying it forward and helping me.
Mhm.
I couldn't have imagined this for my life at all. Like I knew I wanted to come back to Kentucky. I didn't know it would happen as soon as it would. But then to, be at Tennessee, and to be under greatness, to be honest, Holly Warlick, she coached under Pat for 20 plus years, and Mickey DeMoss. And
Yeah.
that was the reason why I committed to Kentucky, is because Mickey DeMoss, I couldn't play Pat Summit. But then Mickey DeMoss, that was the next best thing. And she had coached under Pat for 20 years and won, multiple national championships. So it's been amazing, Maggie. I've learned so many things from each of those people that you said, something different that they got from Pat, and that I've been able to get from them. So so grateful and so blessed.
I love it. That is so cool. I read her autobiography, Sum It Up, I think the summer before I became a manager, and I don't think it was even a game plan for me to be a manager yet. And, there's several times in the book, Coach Elsie and Coach Butts are mentioned. And so then when I got to like be with y'all and learning from y'all, I was like, oh my goodness, these are the people she was talking about. And she was the one I looked up to when I was a kid. And so I was like, holy cow. And then even like Coach Mitchell in his office had a picture hanging with her, and I was like, this is so super cool. This is just amazing. I cannot even believe that this is happening. Love it.
Yes.
So, walk me through a day in the life of a UK basketball coach. What does that look like?
Well, Maggie, it's pretty hard to do that because every day is so different. And that's why it's so nice, because it's not,
Uh huh.
just the same every day, where you're just getting into a, where it can be a routine where it just becomes just monotonous. And so, I think that's why I love this job, because it's so different every single day. If I had to walk you through one day, we typically practice in the morning sometimes. And so I always try to get up. If I had to walk you through one day, we typically practice in the morning sometimes, and so I always try to get up maybe an hour, a little over an hour before I have to be in work, and then try to start my day with prayer and meditation and a devotional, because I've just learned that gets me off to a better start. And if I'm in a good mood and bringing energy, that's going to in turn help my players, and it's also helping me. So try to start my day off with that.
Yes.
And then, I get in and I try to get on the treadmill. I try to mentally prepare, what I need to do in practice. I try to visualize anything that I have to do. And so we'll practice. It varies as far as the time of season that we're in. Right now, we can only go probably like an hour and a half. So we'll practice in the morning. Then after that, if I didn't get a workout in before, I would try to get a workout in after. We might have some meetings that day. We might not. So it might be a heavy meeting day, or it might be a time where I can go in the office and really just lock in and work on some things. If it's a day where I can go out recruiting, I'll go out recruiting, either take a flight or drive somewhere, or I'm in the office, for the rest of the day. A player could stop in and sit down and talk. I try not to work through lunch. I'm trying to be more intentional with going over and sitting down and eating lunch. But yeah, it just varies day to day, Maggie. But if practice is in the afternoon, coming in the morning. So it just varies. But I could be recruiting, in a meeting, in the office, or somebody can be in my office talking. So,
Yeah, I love it. It is different. And I honestly, before I even told you that I was going to ask you that question, I thought about, I was like, I don't really know how she could even answer this because I know it's different every single day. Even if it's just a week of practice, like it's
yes.
still going to look different. So that was good. That was super insightful. So you talked about, like, if you have good energy, like it definitely affects your player. And yes, your energy especially is contagious. You had that energy as a player, and you've like that was one of the things that watching you coach, I was like, this energy of watching like her run up and down the court as a player is literally matching exactly what you do as a coach. You are still up and down, running, moving, yelling, high fiving, like, let's go all the time. I love it. It is so contagious. How do you think that that affects your leadership style?
Well, Maggie, it just started from a young age. Even in high school as a freshman, I was considered a leader. And, it was just natural, to just talk, and to bring that energy. And so, my leadership development started, my freshman year in high school. And it being brought to my attention that, like, Amber, you're a leader. And I'm just like, okay,
Mhm.
what is a leader? And they was like, well, what you're doing right there, how you're giving feedback to people, how you're building relationships with people, making them feel comfortable. Like, all those things matter. And so it was a point where I felt like I was a natural born leader, but I had people in my life to help, hone different skills and help me develop different skills, because I wasn't great when things got tough. That's kind of when I got quiet. So, with being a leader comes a
Mhm.
lot of responsibility. When things go bad, it's your fault. When things go good, you give the credit, to other people. And so that was I just learned a lot about leadership and about myself as a player that has now helped me become a really good leader as a coach. And so it's a credit to the people that I've been surrounded by that have, ultimately seen something in me and seen that, I do have leadership skills. I am a leader. And so
Mhm.
I've kind of embraced that, because sometimes people can see things in you, but you don't see it in yourself. So you kind of just shy back. But I think I embraced it, and I wanted to grow through the things that I was not good at. That took time. It was not easy of, when I was turning the ball over and I would get into myself. For me, it would be like, I'm letting my team down. But then how it would look on the outside is that, Amber, that could come off as selfish, you know? And so, like, learning that in my leadership style. And so the energy is just, it just comes natural. And, I think that is kind of the basis of leadership, what type of energy you bring. Everybody's different. But our energy is definitely,
Yeah,
like, it's out there. So
totally. That is very evident in the way that you
thank
live and
you.
the way that you lead. Who inspired you? Like when you were a player, like who did you look up
Who
to?
did I look up to as a player? It would probably have to be, she was a point guard. Her name was Erica White. You probably won't know who this is, but she was actually from Florida as well. But I didn't know about her until I came to college and was actually playing against her. And so she played at LSU. And she was a small point guard from Florida. So I saw some similarities. And then to be able to go against her, as a freshman when she was a senior, it was pretty cool, because I didn't watch much basketball when I was in high school as far as like college or pro. And so when I first got to college, I was able to like see firsthand, just the level and just how different it was. And so Erica White is a name that and a player that I just looked up to that inspired me. Then I got to meet her personally, so that was pretty awesome. So just how she carried
Hmm.
herself, how hard she worked, how she led her team were things that stood out to me that I wanted to, do for my team.
I love that. What about as a
As a
coach?
coach, I mean, Pat Summit, she is the GOAT. She definitely is the person that, I looked up to. She was a woman. She was leading, a program, a dominant program, turned it around. She was probably the main person. And then, someone else is Don Staley, who is a, black
Hmm.
female, in our profession. We are seeing more black females in general, but then to see, black females and people
Hmm.
that look like you, I think representation matters. And so to her and what she's
Mhm.
done. As when I was a player, we would go against them and they were terrible. We would beat them. And now going against them as a coach,
Mhm.
they are great.
Yeah, they're not
Just
terrible
to
anymore.
see, her progression and what she put in, the work is pretty astounding. And so she's just someone, that I look up
Yeah.
to in this profession for sure. And then there's
Mhm.
obviously so many other coaches, people I work with, they inspire me. My players inspire me to be better, every single day, because I want to be a better coach for
Mhm.
them. And so, I am bringing, my best to the table every single day because they inspired me.
I love that. I love that so much. You have been surrounded, and I didn't think about this before right now, but you've been obviously surrounded by incredible leaders, incredible coaches, incredible basketball minds. And you've soaked in a lot of different coaching techniques and leadership styles and just lessons throughout this career, both as a player and a coach. If you could sum it up, and I know that that is a hard question, what do you think is like the biggest takeaway that you've learned from all these just awesome leaders?
Well, I would be remiss to like not mention two other people that are making an impact in my life currently, and that I've been blessed to work alongside is Gail Gaston-Course and Lynn Dunn. They are two Hall of Famers. And so, like, the list you listed earlier, and then you add those two as a bonus.
Mhm.
I just, I'm
Yeah.
so blessed, Maggie. Sometimes I just cannot believe it, that, but it's all God at the end of the day, and that, He has just placed me, in this position. Yesterday I put a post out and I said, it's not a position of power, but it's a position of purpose. And that God is allowing me to
Yeah.
walk in my purpose daily. So to have
Yeah.
people that, fuel my fire and help me be better, like Gail and like Lynn, and then Matthew, who as a player, had a big impact in my life. And then as a coach, he taught me so much just about basketball. Even Tyler, he taught me so much about organization, how to run a program. Matthew, so many of the things that
Mhm.
how I want to teach on the court, how I want to be as far as discipline, comes from him.
Mhm.
Lynn and Gail, they helped me just the whole, just everything, how to be a better leader as a coach, how to be a better coach, a better teacher.
Mhm.
And so I think what I've learned from everybody that has touched my life in some type of way, some type of capacity, is like be authentic, be your authentic self, because at the end of the day, that is what matters. It is how you come off and how you
Yeah.
care about people, because they are only going
Mhm.
to do so much or go so hard only for people that actually care about them as people. It's just not about what they can do for you on the court. And I've been around, people that it might have been just, oh, what you can do on the court, or, seen it. But I've been very blessed to be around people that care about me as a person. So that is in turn what I want to do for my
Mhm.
players. So I think that is the biggest thing. And if you don't do that, then the other stuff is not going to work consistently. And so that
Yes.
is the biggest
Yeah.
piece of advice, that I've gotten from the people that I've been around.
Man, you live that too. Like, I as a man well, one, do you the first day we met, like, I had met Debbie Antonelli on the beach, and she is the one that, like, connected me. She was like, "You need to meet them, like, this would be cool." So then I'm walking out of Whitehall, and I get a text from Coach Mitchell. It's a number I don't know, and he's like, "Hey, this is head coach Matthew Mitchell. Do you think you have time to swing by my office?" I was like, "Sure." So I go in, and you're about to walk out as I'm walking in, and I didn't know that you had come back to coach yet. And I was like, "Amber Smith?" And you were like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "Oh my," like, kinda starstruck. I was like, "You're so cool." And went on to, talk to him. I started on as a manager, and like, one of the things that my parents really instilled in me is, like, how you treat the custodians says a lot about your character, right? Anyone that's, like, just not the high up glamorous spot, and as a manager, that's not the high up glamorous spot, right? But you were so intentional every single day. Like, Maggie, what's going on in life, in school, with work? Like, how are you? How are you really? like so intentional. And that so like clearly you were like when I was like, who is a playmaker I want on the show? I was like, Amber Smith. She embodies this servant leadership and heart for people that is just amazing and contagious, you know? I
Thank you
love it.
so much, Maggie. That means so much. And it was just something about you, like your energy, how you came to practice. It was a smile on your face, and I'm like, oh, I need to know this person, you know. And so even if you didn't, I would still obviously introduce myself, but you just had something about you, the energy, your smile. You came in there every single day. I don't care if it was 6 a.m. Or 5 p.m. And so, yeah, that's important to me, and that's been instilled in me in servant leadership, and how I was raised. That goes back to my mother. She has such
Hmm.
a pure heart, and how she treated people, and I was able to see that, and so that is, I just great people around me. And so I'm so blessed to have met you, Maggie. I was sad when you were leaving, but then I was just happy that like you were happy, and so it's been awesome kind of just to see,
Hmm.
like your story unfold and you just, find yourself. And
Yeah.
I'm just grateful you thought about me.
Yes, man. How could I not? I mean, the Playmaker podcast, right? Who are playmakers in my life? You are one of them. And so that kind of leads me to my last question. I always ask before we hop off, how are you being a playmaker in this current season of your life?
I think, man, that's such a great question. Because I think every season is so different. And in this current season, I'm being a playmaker by working on myself, by doing the work, by making sure my cup is filled. Because I've learned that, like, you can go hard, you can, pour into other people, but that won't be consistent, that won't sustain if your cup is not filled. You will not be happy day in
Yes.
and day out, if you're not doing the work to be happy. If you just going,
Yeah,
yeah, like I'm
absolutely.
blessed and I'm happy for this job, but I could still find things to be ungrateful for if I'm not doing the work. And so part of my
Mhm.
morning routine is, thinking or writing down things that I'm grateful for. I'm like just working on myself, doing the work. And I think in turn, that is helping me be more vulnerable with my players about healing, about, whether that's going to therapy. And like I'm just in a season of my life where it's not like all about me, but it's about me and put myself first so that I can give my very best to the people that are in my life. Uh,
Exactly.
Players are a big part of
Yes.
that, my family, my close friends. And so just being a playmaker by doing the work on me so that I can come with my cup filled so I can pour into others and help them.
Yes. You cannot pour from an empty cup. That is
Yeah.
so good. So good, coach. As always, I love it. You are a rock star. Thank you so much. Seriously, this has been so, so good. And there's so many nuggets of knowledge in here that are going to impact so many people.
Thank you
So
so much,
excited for
Maggie,
it.
for having me. You are indeed a playmaker as well.
Oh, thanks, coach. Thank you, coach. Get 1% better every day,
Let's
right?
get it.
That's the goal. That is the goal. Well, y'all, thank you so much for tuning in today. This has been so fun. I hope that you will take this and like all of the stuff that Amber has just poured into us here and like go apply it to your life. Don't just listen. Don't be passive. Be active. Go and attack your 1% and get 1% better today. And we will see y'all next time.